So, Crypto Stash, welcome to the Crypto Princess Show. How are you today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Just another day, another mission. What can I say? This is the life we live here at the GIA.
Awesome. So, just before we get into your crypto story, if I was to meet you in high school, what kind of person were you?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, I've gone through many iterations here in life. High school was definitely one of them that was interesting. I played sports.
Okay.
I was kind of a loner though. And I guess that kind of makes sense, ending up as a secret agent. You got to be athletic, but kind of a loner.
What sports were you into?
I played all sports actually, mostly football and basketball, but I did some
Okay.
baseball too when I was a little younger.
So, football, that's like British football, soccer.
No, 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 no. Come on.
American football. Oh,
Yep.
gosh.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
wow. That's another level.
I get down with both though. I love both footballs.
Were you ever
Football
in?
and football.
Were you ever injured playing American football? Because it seems so violent.
I mean, hey, the other football is violent too. All soccer, whatever you want. Hey, look, there's violence in sports. It's great. I mean, I enjoy hockey. And part of it is because of the violence, right? But no, I mean, I don't think I ever really got seriously injured. No, I did
Okay,
playing basketball.
good, good.
I broke my arm
Um,
playing basketball.
okay, so when did you actually get into crypto? Or when did you discover crypto?
Well, I've been in it a long time. We got to go all the way back here to 2012 was the first time that I saw anything about Bitcoin.
I'm so
And
excited.
it was super random.
2012.
It was just in like a tech forum. I don't even remember, I don't remember where it really was back then, but I had seen something and I clicked on a random link and I was like, oh, internet money. That's weird. I'm going to check this out. And, it was like a site selling Bitcoin, but then there was also Litecoin. And I was like, what?
It
That's
wasn't Silk
dumb.
Road, was it?
I'm like, this seems like there's two of them. I'm like, nah, man, this is okay. No, this is stupid. And that was like my first like real touch of it. And it was like real quick, real brief. It was just one of those things, like you just scan and hit links and shit, and like all of a sudden, like there's something interesting. Like, all right, check it out for a second. All right, no, move on. And then, but then about a little bit less than a year later, another one of my good buddies had said something about it, and one of the only dudes I've ever really got to hang out and talk with, crypto that was already a friend before crypto, right? He had said something, mentioned something about it, and so I jumped back in and I was looking at it again, and that's when I read the white paper, and that's when everything kind of clicked. I was like, oh wow, this is actually a lot more in depth and interesting than that first kind of touch, that first surface level touch that I had. And I mean, back then it was like really underground, right? Like, so like Bitcoin Talk was like the main spot where people hung out, and there just wasn't a lot of mainstream action. But
So
that
the
but that's when I essentially I read the white paper, and then I bought my first Bitcoin shortly after that. So like the end of 2013, beginning of 2014.
okay, what were you doing at the time? What was your job?
So at the time, I basically had been an entrepreneur for a while. So I run a business that I've been running for quite a few years. It's a web development company. So we do, kind of that kind of like coding stuff, design, coding, hosting, all that kind of jazz. So I was doing that, but I mean, I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of things actually. I've run the gamut when it comes to like different hats I've worn here, but that's the kind of life of a secret agent, I suppose.
Okay, awesome. Just out of pure curiosity, the website that you found in 2012 or and 2013, it wasn't Silk Road, was it? The famous
No,
Silk
no,
Road.
no,
Ah,
no. That would be a much more interesting story actually if it was. I was like, yeah, I was on this little website. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called Silk Road. No, it was not. It was just like it was some random. I honestly don't even remember. It was one of those things where it's like, you're clicking around on links, and it was so brief. It was like I looked at it. Okay, cool, interesting. Oh wait, there's two of them. That's weird. Okay, move on. But then getting a second like friend kind of like touch on it, and then seeing it, kind of pop up again in feeds. Me being a tech focused kind of dude, I've always been very tech heavy, right?
mhm.
That was really what I think put it over the top, is like, okay, A friend recommend, and I think that's with most things, right? When you get that friend recommendation or someone that you know, kind of a trusted source, it definitely makes you more interested and curious, and I guess, I don't know, want to dive in more, and it did for me, which was great.
Okay, so for those people who are unaware, 2012 was very, very early. Bitcoin was created, or the Genesis box was on the 3rd of January 2009. So 2009, I do apologize,
Yep, 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
2012 was the first halving year, and 2013 was the first bull run year. You got into crypto, Bitcoin in the bull run, the first bull run.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
essentially bought the top.
Oh, so you bought it towards the end. Okay.
Yeah, it was towards the
So
end of that. Yep, exactly. So it was, I mean, not the tip. It wasn't the tippy top, which I'm glad, but it was definitely like very close. And Bitcoin was maybe like around $500 or something, like 450. It was something around there, right? But yeah, topped out at that, and that was the bull run. And then I sat on it for the next couple of years while it was down and down, and I was like, oh, that might have been a waste. Who knows? We'll see. And I just sat. I didn't sell. I go, I'm just going
Oh,
to hold this
brilliant.
over time, and I'm going to see what happens.
That's brilliant
Because I
because
really believed in the vision, that I read in that white paper, and I was already kind of someone who's, come from the punk rock world. I kind of, I'm not really great with authority. Even Miss Crypto Penny here, she's, sometimes she can't even wrangle me in. But the thing is that all those things kind of commingled, and the ethos of Bitcoin really spoke to me.
So what was it that made you understand the white paper? What sort of skills did you have beforehand? Because even now people
Reading.
don't
I know
understand.
how to read.
But how did it make sense to you? Because even now it's very difficult to explain to somebody what Bitcoin is. And you
It
saw
really,
the vision.
yeah, I mean, I think some people are just stupid. I don't know what to say. Like, it's, I mean, look, the good thing about this is, what I will say is that if you really did just take the time to read the white, it's not very long. It's not a long document. It's not like really overly technical. It's not like where you're like reading equations and trying to figure out mathematical, like, it's not at all. So, I mean, I think that just go read the white paper is what I would say. If you've never done it and you're in crypto in any kind of way, it's an interesting read. It'll literally just take you a small amount of your life, but you may get a bigger perspective on kind of the direction. And now, obviously, the direction of Bitcoin has changed, and that's one of the great things about it, is that it has the ability to change over time with the community, and I think that that's another really great strength. So,
Do you remember how many Bitcoins you bought in 2013?
oh, I can't divulge that. Well, look, you're over here trying to get inside my wallet. I bought a little. I bought a little bit. I didn't buy a ton. I didn't buy a ton when I first got started, but then slowly over the years, DCAing, buying a little bit more here and there over time. A little bit here each month, and the next month, and just it compounds over time. So.
I have a huge amount of respect for you already. That's amazing. Okay, so we will go from 2013, then obviously 2014 was a bear market. 2015, the prices started to go up again. 2016 was the second halving event. 2017 was the second bull run. The prices in 2017 were looking at around about $1,000 up to, I think the high was just under 20,000 US dollars. That was a whirlwind of a bull run, and things really took off in that bull run. There was a lot more media coverage, etc. Tell me about 2017.
It was a fun year. It's a good year. It's a good vintage. It was interesting, right? So that's when a lot of this stuff that you see today started coalescing, right? So the actual community outside of like just a message board, like a Bitcoin talk, right? There was not a lot of like content being created around crypto until about 2016-ish is when things started really, happening. But you could hit a handful of people. You could really count them. So when I got started at the end of 2016 in this stuff, I kind of came back around. I saw Ethereum, and that's what got me reinterested in the industry again, because I was like, oh, this is a whole new take. This is a different direction. This is going well beyond some of that original stuff, and so kind of got me interested in it again. And so I started diving into more things and kind of, sharing my journey. And that's when I started a blog, and that's where the whole Crypto Stache blog kind of came from, right? As I was a writer, I started off writing, and I was doing like articles talking about like basic topics, beginner things. And then I even started doing classes in my own city. So suiting up in disguise in a suit and tie, and teaching people about Bitcoin, which is interesting. So, so I was writing, I was doing that. I met, started meeting some people in the community in 2017, which was cool. There was not very many content creators. So started doing some of that. And then we had a massive, it was a perfect kind of storm. And there was so much, frenzy and excitement and euphoria, because and it was warranted. It was a great year. So there was a lot of things that kind of blossomed, and obviously it was the bull run of the ICO, right? And I think that really was a big driving factor, is the ERC20 as a token standard, right? Kind of a copy paste. Anytime you make a technology stupidly simple, you're going to get an explosion of everyone wanting to utilize it, and there's a lot of money usually around that explosion, right? And we've seen that already multiple times now within this industry and others over the last decade or so.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. I have a lot of respect for you. So you got in. So for those people who are not aware, Ethereum was founded by Vitalik Buterin and a number of other co-founders. The white paper was written in 2013. 2000, I think it was 2014. They did the ICO 2015. They launched a coin 2016 was when you got in, literally a year or even less than a year later. That's amazing. How were you so technical?
I was just born this way. And I will say too, it's the power of the stash. This each one of these stash, they kind of just like a lightning rod of knowledge directly into me.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just I've always been very tech savvy. Like even as a kid, like I'd take computers apart, build them, mess with them. I've always been very focused on the kind of tech side, so I've been using it very early. That's how it goes, secret agent skills.
So when you started your blog in 2016, were you Crypto Stache?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So I
Really?
had not really done anything, in the community until then. And so, I didn't really have anybody, like I said, to talk to. Like one guy who, I talk to every once in a while, but, outside of that, like no friends really to talk about anything. And so I was like, I'm just going to create just a simple blog for myself, which I did. And it was called the Crypto Stache. So that's kind of where everything started.
How did you come up with the name? Does it come from mustache? Mustache come from Crypto Stache?
No, of course that's where it comes from. Come on, are you kidding me? Look at this thing. Look at this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is where it's a double entendre, right? So yes, it's the mustache, right, which is how it's spelled. So if it's mustache, right, so Crypto Stache mustache, right, that's why whenever you see it just stash, it has like the little apostrophe, right? Anyways, but also that it's a stash, right, of your crypto. So I played on that double entendre for a long time in a lot of the branding. There's not as much in it now, but yeah.
Yeah. So how did you go from a vlog or a blog to YouTube?
Good question. That's what I'm saying. So like, I was writing all the way through like 2018, really focused on that. And then I had met friends, fellow people that were doing content in like 2017. And we were in groups together hanging out, and, they had started to get into doing YouTube stuff. And so I kind of followed. I followed along. I was like, that's kind of the next expansion of what I'm going to do. If I'm going to keep doing this stuff, like videos make a lot more sense than just writing articles. And so, yeah, I started doing videos in 2018, and I already done some video stuff, but like more of like a course. So I had done like a video course about Bitcoin, like Bitcoin basics and beginner, cryptocurrency stuff. And so, yeah, I wanted to kind of expand a little bit on that and start doing some more of that, through like, via YouTube. And so, yeah, so I started doing some videos in 2018 and, early 2017 too, but yeah, writing, but not as much, right? Like here and there, a little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Really getting started in 2018.
So were they about gaming at the time, or were they just about Bitcoin?
No, no, no. It was just general crypto stuff. I did general crypto topics for a long time. There was not a lot of gaming stuff that was around. Now, the stuff that was there early on, I was getting into, like NFTs. I was covering that. I was like one of the first people to cover that and talk about NFTs. I knew they were going to be huge. I was trying to push them on all the friends, and people didn't care. I was a huge early proponent of NFTs, and I was actually the first YouTuber to create his own NFT, actually. I partnered with Engine on this, and we created an NFT because at the time there was no, like, individuals really weren't creating a lot of their own NFTs. It was mostly just like projects, right? So you had like things like CryptoKitties that were kind of the first explosion of that, right, in late 2017, and then you saw some other ones kind of iterate through that. But like in 2018 with Engine, they had developed a really cool like QR NFT technology. So I distributed 5,000 NFTs to people for free using this. This is just a QR with their wallet, their app, and it was pretty cool. Real simple, straightforward. Didn't really do anything. It was just like a little commemorative thing, but it was the first time anyone had done it, like as a creator, as a content creator. So.
Okay, awesome. And for those people who are unaware, an NFT is like, it lives on the blockchain. It's a piece of code, and it gives it provides detail of ownership. After 2017, we slipped into a bear market. 2018. By this time, were you aware of the differences between a bull market and a bear market, and how did you position yourself?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been, like I said, for better or worse in it for quite a few years. So yeah, I mean, I had already understood that there was these kind of cycles with Bitcoin, and that's one of the things that interests me about it, right? A kind of a mathematical cycle with a lot of what's how it's built. But yeah, how did I position myself? I mean, I wouldn't say like I had a boss trading strategy. I wouldn't consider myself like I'm not like a day trader, right? So what I do is like I do content creation, I do trade, but I don't like sit there and day trade, right? I'm not the dude who's got 5 screens up with a bunch of different and I'm trying to I don't do that, right? I don't really find that to be very interesting. Maybe I could probably make more money if I did do that. But I enjoy the community aspect. I enjoy the content creation aspect. I enjoy like the entertainment aspect of things. So I always kind of leaned more that direction, right? So that's why I was really more into NFTs early on, and then like the early gaming stuff that was started to happen with blockchain, with like Engine and other early companies. I was leaning more towards that stuff. So, how I was positioned okay. Like I had got into Binance early and stuff like that when they had first early launch. And I think that was somewhere around that same time. But getting into, a few things here and there that, that I did well on. I mean, in general, a lot of that time just DCAing. DCAing Bitcoin is a strategy that people should not be overlooking, especially over time. It's like crazy insane. Like even just 5 years, you can see what a good DCA strategy will result in, and that's always one of those focuses, right?
We'll talk about gaming crypto when we talk about 2020, the 2021 bull run. So 2018 was a bear market. Then we came out to 2019, and then obviously the pandemic hit in 2020. March 2020, we had a major correction. Bitcoin went from $9,800 down to $3,200. People were dying everywhere. There was a lot of FUD everywhere. Businesses were closing down. People were losing their jobs. Nobody really knew what was happening. Some people thought it was the end of the world as we knew it. How did you navigate the pandemic and crypto?
That's a good question. I just locked myself in my headquarters and played video games.
Did you really?
That's literally what I did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was like, that's where the current iteration of everything I'm doing that you guys see here, because like I said, it's, I wasn't always wearing the old, what we call the standard issue here, right? The trench coat, the hat, glasses. If you find older videos of me, I'm just in normal clothes, but this current iteration, like the whole gaming stuff I've done, and the persona and everything that kind of goes with it, that all came about at the beginning of COVID, actually. So That's when all that kind of stuff went down. I was like, I want to do something different. I had already been doing some live streams, but nothing crazy. And I kind of came up with this whole new direction, and that it was right at the beginning of COVID. So I was just hanging out, doing a lot of gaming, a lot of like game live streams, and just having fun with it, trying to teach people about what's cool about NFTs and the crypto side of gaming.
So with your crypto, I'm presuming you didn't sell your Bitcoin. You hodled on. What about were you into altcoins at the time as well? Did you hodl them?
Oh
Did you
yeah, no,
buy?
I've always been into altcoins even since 2017. Like I said, I've diversified, over the years, and not too, but yeah, but I've been early to a lot of good altcoins, which has been great over time. Like I said, just being in the market, it definitely helps, right? Just the time in the market is important. But yeah, I've never sold. I'll tell you right now, I've never sold any Bitcoin ever. Out of all the Bitcoin I've ever purchased, I have never sold any Bitcoin for money. Now, what I have done is I did a few videos where early on, like back in the day when I told you I used to do crypto education, I would show people that, yes, you can buy things also with Bitcoin, because that was one of the main things. Like, hey, this is a transactional currency. And so I would make videos of me going around, my town or other towns, buying things with Bitcoin. And so there's ones where I was like on Venice, and I was talking with people and down in Venice who would take Bitcoin for services or for goods or whatever. And so, anyways, I did a whole series on that. But yeah, I've never sold any Bitcoin.
That's amazing. That's really, really good. Okay, so again, looking at 2020, tell me, how did you come up with the character with the gaming intelligence agency? What inspired it? Was it like, I don't know, 007, something similar?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely take inspiration from a lot of the classical archetypes, right? Vintage kind of, Get Smart, James Bond movies, Inspector Gadget, which people like to they're like, oh, that's what I get the most. And I'm like, I'll take all of those vibes, because they were all my absolute favorite as a child, right? But yeah, so kind of combining all those like elements of each one of those things, right? Of like your classic kind of like spy character, right? Into something that is just a little bit different and a little bit fun for me when I'm doing streams, and it kind of just took over and people liked it and I enjoyed doing it. So I've always really been into like cosplay and stuff like that too. Like, love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. Always do something big for that. So always been doing like custom costumes, and that's where like the disguises come in, stuff like that, with the whole persona too. So just trying to have fun with it.
Let's talk about family. So when you first got into Bitcoin, what did your family think about it? And then when you came up with your YouTube channel, what did your family think about it? And do they follow you?
Yeah, they didn't care at the beginning. Like, the thing is it's so hard to convince like close people, the people who are close to, about things like this, because in general, like, also there's that fear of like, well, if I introduce it to them and then they get screwed somehow, then and that's the same fear I have for like my community in general. Like, it's for all the people who follow me, like, I always try and make sure that the stuff I caution people, or like, hey, like, this is something that you need to be aware of. And but always that fear there. It's harder with like your parents or like your close friends. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I convinced them right off the bat. I didn't really like try to. It wasn't like, oh man, you guys got to hear this new thing. It's all, you got to get in this. But I did talk to them about it, but I never was like trying strong arming them in a way of like, you got to get it now. And doing the whole YouTube thing, like I said, it was just kind of a natural progression. Do they follow me now? Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah. So sometimes my mom will be like, oh, I saw your latest video.
Oh, that's awesome, because my family
She doesn't
doesn't
understand shit of it. It's fine.
Exactly, my family doesn't understand it. My brother barely knew that I even had the YouTube channel until like a couple of weeks ago, and I've been doing it for months. Okay, so that was 2020. Okay, let's look at 2021. Now, 2021 was 2020 was a halving year. It was also the pandemic. So after the halving year, we normally have a parabolic bull run. So 2021 was a bull run. 2021 played out as, amazingly. We kind of went straight up until April. In April, we hit a high of 64,000 US dollars. The China FUD hit, Bitcoin fell and ranged at 30,000 for a good couple of months. Bitcoins were taken off the exchanges. The supply shock led up to the second peak, and then we had Wells notices being issued to, from the SEC to cryptocurrency exchanges and projects, and then there was inflation concerns, and then we slid into a bear market.
You make it sound so bad. You're like, man, you like gloss it over there so hard. You're just like, all right, all these things happen, then everything's straight down. All these bad. That's what I like it.
How did you navigate that?
HODL.
You just hodled. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, some stuff. So look, sometimes you round trip some coins or a project that even myself being in it this long, there's ones where I'm like, damn, I should have sold that like a year ago, or I should have sold that like a month ago, or I should have sold that a week ago, and it happens. And then there's coins where I sold and it was too early, and so like it's just part of being in this industry. If you're going to trade, you're always going to have to understand that you're going to lose sometimes, but it's about trying to consistently win too, right? Don't think like, just because I had a loss, oh man, I'm horrible. Like, even the best traders have losses, right? Even the best guys, but it's about having a system that you can kind of employ and consistently try and win with. And even though I don't trade a ton, I usually I'm usually come out with a pretty good win rate of the trades I do, because I'm very specifically cautious about how I do it. So yeah, I mean, how do I position myself? A lot of stuff I hodled, right? There's some stuff I did sell, and then some stuff I should have sold around that time that I didn't, and have sold for less or whatever over time or what it may be. But yeah, that was, like I said, very focused on NFTs, that bull run, the 2021 bull run. So yeah, I was very much into NFT stuff, and it was kind of
NFTs
a little bit of a runaway circus there for a while, but it's still fun and interesting, and there's a lot of cool projects that were going on at the time. So
I mean, I think JPEGs of rocks were selling over $1 million US dollars, which was crazy. Apart from the NFTs, the 2020 bull run had a lot of gaming projects. What was your take on gaming projects, and how did you navigate that narrative?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the kind of connection of NFTs to gaming very early on, and it's something I was really pushing as probably the first person really talking about. Like, there was nobody else on Twitch when I was on Twitch originally, and then on YouTube as well, like talking about these games, streaming them, or that was like, I was the original guy doing it. So like, I've pushed this for a long time, since the very beginning. So yeah, 2020 was 2020, 2021, there started to be some validation, right? Some final, like, okay, now other people are really seeing this. We have really good solid games like Gods Unchained, Splinterlands, a couple other ones that are really, making some headway. Like, they're really solid, and there's people playing these games. So it was a little bit of vindication, which was nice. But yeah, I mean, I think that, I was playing most of these games and promoting them and talking about them on my channel and doing videos about them, exposing my community to kind of newer stuff up and coming. But there was still a lot of just like now, there's just a lot of projects that are just they didn't make it.
Also, the metaverse narrative was very, very popular in 2021.
That was the huge driver.
Yeah. So what did you think of the metaverse at the time?
I like the concept. I've always been a digital, like I said, focused person. So like online persona, valuing digital items in particular, like in MMOs, has always been something that I've always, been very akin to, right? Something that vibed with me. And so I was playing some of the early online MMOs and, selling in the black market, right? Or buying, right? And so yeah, I mean, I think seeing some of that kind of come into some of this early stuff, was good. But the metaverse kind of brings that all together, right? It's the concept of be anything, do anything, And it's a good concept. I think we're just a little bit maybe too early for some of those things.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of use for it, but at the same time, like you got to look like it's really hard to beat out the native ones. So like a big project around that time was the sandbox, which I was a huge believer in. And I was building a game in the sandbox. I did a lot of work with the sandbox early on as one of their first ambassadors. So I really love that platform and what they do. And they're still doing some good stuff now. I've just had a little bit of falling out with them, but it has more to do with, on the project side and development and things like that. But yeah, in general, like that was a big narrative back then. And so, yeah, it definitely was pushing that kind of, metaverse narrative. There was a lot of like metaverse things going on that were interesting. It's just most of them are not going to make it because they can't get enough players to actually be there for it to feel like, what people feel the metaverse should feel like. Right. And like, if you really want to look at the closest thing, it's Fortnite. Fortnite is the greatest example of what you would take a definition of what most people would think a metaverse is, and Fortnite is the biggest qualifier. It meets almost all the boxes right there. So that's kind of where we're going. You see Fortnite becoming this kind of universal platform. They had a Star Wars May the 4th celebration where you could go watch. You're just going into the game to watch TV with other people there inside the game. And they've done this lots of times before with like concerts and stuff like that, right? You're just going to like listen to a digital concert inside the game. And so that's kind of like, like, that's what a metaverse kind of is you're living your life inside this digital environment. And so far, Fortnite is kind of the leader in that. Roblox too, in a lot of ways as well. But it's been hard for a crypto-based project to take that over, even though that crypto side is something that's, I think, sorely needed for the metaverse to really work in its in its long-term potential.
So gaming onboarded a lot of people and introduced them to cryptocurrency, and you were there at the forefront with your channel.
Yeah, I did it all. I was heavy
Yeah.
lifting. All these other people that you see in gaming, yeah.
How did after 2021 we slid into a bear market? 2022, a lot of the projects, we had loads of Black Swan events. We had 3 Hours Capital, Luna, FTX, Voyager, and all the rest of it.
Rough.
A lot of people had bought land in the metaverse. They had bought all of these NFTs, etc., and they saw their value dip. In gaming, was it any different because they were actually utilizing their NFTs in the gaming world, or were they hit quite hard there as well?
Not any different. Hit just as hard. It would be nice to think that's the case, but I think that there were just no games that had a lot of desirability, right? That's what makes the NFT worth anything, is that someone needs to want to desire it. There needs to be a desire for that NFT. Because it has some sort of use case, or it looks cool, whatever it may be. It's a cool skin, but there has to be that desire there. And I think that was still missing around that time. Like, we didn't have games I felt where there was like, man, there are thousands of people that desire this skin, and only 200 people could get it because that's the amount that were available, and it's verifiable, right? And so I think that's something like, if you compare it to like a Counter-Strike, right? There's these skins that are going for thousands of dollars every single day. They're trading skins, thousands of dollars in this marketplace, and it generates millions and millions of dollars in revenue. But if there was no desire there for those things because they weren't super rare, people didn't play Counter-Strike, then they would be worth shit, nothing. So, I think that's the kind of the problem, is that all these NFTs, they also did lose all NFTs. It was across the board. It wasn't just PFPs or just community only. The gaming NFTs in general all lost a lot of their value too. So things like the sandbox, other metaverses that have land, any kind of in-game avatars or skins or any of those things, all of them lost money. And I have a graveyard of NFTs that have lost money. I mean, like, and am I proud of it? Like, I've been through all the experiments in crypto, which I actually enjoy, in particular on the NFT side, where I have these like memories that I can at least go back and look and like, oh yeah, I remember that rug pull, man, that was great.
Okay, so in November 2022, we hit the bottom of the bear market, which was around 15,000 US dollars. What were you doing at the time? Were you buying? And did you know it was the bottom?
2022, we hit a bottom for no. I mean, I
For
don't
Bitcoin?
think that for Bitcoin. I don't know that is that really the, but was it
November.
2022 the bottom?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
in the bear
yeah.
market.
I mean, what was I doing? Like, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, 2022, still DCAing Bitcoin, but at the same time, like, yeah, I mean, I dabbling altcoins, doing swing trades. I don't remember particular tokens at that time, but probably looking at entries for some of these tokens. But really, honestly, I did a lot more of my entry buying for the bull market more in 2024 versus 2022, outside
Mm-hmm.
of Bitcoin, right? Outside of Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so after November 2022, we started to go up again. Price started to increase, and money started to flow into crypto again. So 2023, anything eventful happened in 2023? Or was it just hodling?
I mean, 2023 was, yeah, I mean, significant is, man, the
Just a
thing
bit
with
boring in the
crypto,
market.
well, I'm saying, yeah. The problem with crypto is it moves so fast. It's hard to be like, oh man, what happened? I mean, a ton of shit happened in 2023. Anything significant for me, in particular, just building my brand in the community. I've been focused on lots of different games in crypto. So because there hasn't been one main game, but as we kind of transitioned into the next year, that's, I think we really started to see some of the stuff that you see now, which is me focusing on more of like a single game, like off the grid, which has been the game I've been focusing on. But I mean, there was, yeah, I don't know, 2020. I'm trying to think of like a standout event. Like, you're like, all right, like some question. I don't know that there was anything that was like, oh man, this is a huge standout thing for this year. I
It
think it
was
was
a
just,
bit boring. The market was sideways. It was a
it was
bit
still
boring.
technically a bear market. Like, so you can say like, oh, well, we started going back up. But I mean, not really. It was still pretty much a bear market, in 2023, I would say. Mostly sideways action. And towards the end, we started to see a little bit more going into 2024, which was nice. But in general, it still has felt like a bear market. And I think a lot of that had to do with kind of change in paradigm with, meme coin type of stuff and like, pump fund type of things. And I think that narrative going into 2024 really kind of, I don't know, took some of the excitement out of what we've seen in the general markets with the rise of the trench warrior,
Okay. So let's talk about last year. So it was a good year. I mean, for us, it was a little bit boring. It felt boring, but when you look back at it, it was like Bitcoin. The low was 38,000 US dollars. It made a new all-time high before the halving, but the actual all-time high for the last year was 108,000 US dollars. We had a little alt season in quarter 1. We had an alt season in quarter 4. We had an extended meme season. We had ETFs at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Germany sold its Bitcoin, which I think they're down now, something like 6 billion or something. I don't even know. But they will regret that forever. We had Donald Trump running, and then obviously he won and he ran on Bitcoin as well. So that added a lot of legitimacy. How was 2024 for you?
A halving year is always a crazy year because it also aligns with the US election cycle, right? So you want to think that someone as savvy as Satoshi didn't plan that?
I think he planned it.
100%. 100%. Like all like everything mathematically kind of works out. So yeah, it just it becomes a very tumultuous time. So yeah, I mean 2024 was a big year. There was just so much going on within within the industry, but outside the industry too. And I think that's what it always is with happening. Now, we saw all, like, if you look at where we are now, man, yeah, there was definitely like a little mini alt season in March just before the halving, which was kind of crazy. Usually we don't see Bitcoin hit an all-time high before halving. Like it had never happened before. So when people say like this cycle is different or this cycle isn't different, it's going to be like, it already is. That was already something that had never happened before. And so this cycle is different for sure. And I don't know, it's been a little weird. You know, it's been a little weird. We've seen Bitcoin hit another ATH, and you know, people think that it's gonna. We're really just kind of at a middle point in the bull cycle. We haven't topped out yet, and we'll see as things kind of, you know, transition to the end of the Q4 of this, or the end of the year Q4, right? That's when I think a lot of people are kind of targeting this to kind of go up. But I mean, I don't know. Things are just, it's so weird with how things have changed, how the market has changed, how the sentimentality of traders has changed, how we've seen governments and massive corporations jumping on board, wanting to get their hands on Bitcoin. Like there's a lot of really weird factors that it's hard to say like, oh no, everything's still going to play out like it always does.
That's true. Yeah.
I feel like there's more X factors now than there ever have been in a bull cycle, right? So if you really look at like what drives these things, yeah, there's mathematical, you know, numbers. There's numbers behind it that drive the kind of need for Bitcoin, especially when there's a good demand. But yeah, a lot of factors I think also have kind of thrown off that rhythm that we've seen so far. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the year plays out. I wish I had a solid answer, to be perfectly honest. I really don't. I think in the short term, we're seeing some good upside price action with some decent volume. We're starting to see more bullish. I mean, the amount of bullish news we've had that hasn't moved the meter is like astonishing to me. I mean, at the same time, you could also say there's been some really bad news that also didn't move the meter as much as we would think either. So I don't know. Is it manipulation, or is it just the asset maturing? It's hard to really say. I think it's probably a little bit of both, really, honestly. But yeah, it's interesting to see where it's going to go this year because of some of those kind of new factors, right? That we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm. So I did have last year, so in 2024, in my alt bag, it was mainly AI, RWA, and gaming. When we did have the tiny little alt seasons, which were actually, to be fair, quite disappointing, my alt bag and my RWA bag swelled. They were going up. I was a little bit disappointed with my gaming bag. Gaming hasn't done as well this cycle, you know, as well as most people had thought.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think that, you know, a lot of these tokens, people are starting to realize they maybe don't even do much in the game, or B, the game, like they're, you know, the game's never coming out, or C, the game was shit in the first place. So I think there's just a lot of oversaturation that happened over the last 4 or so years, I would say probably. And I think that when you start to see like, oh, well, funding is dried up, right? You start to see where projects like, hey, we've ran out of runway. There's no more, you know, funding. There's no VCs out there that want to because the return is just not as good as it could be, because there's a long time for a lot of these games to really go from idea concept to actual playability and having a community and generating revenue. Really, that's the biggest thing, right? So I think a lot of these games just have a really tough time finding a user base to generate any revenue from. In particular with gaming, there's just another game. Like it's a very tough impacted industry, right? You have to have a good unique hit or kind of a dynasty game to really guarantee profits. But, you know, even an indie game can make and I think that's what we're kind of looking for, is that we're looking for that one big game that really puts the spotlight on crypto and gaming in a really positive way. And I think that Off the Grid is definitely that game. You know, whereas maybe Axie Infinity was the one that mainstream people would look at and be like, oh, all this stuff is just a Ponzi scam, right? Because that's kind of what mainstream saw. They didn't see all the other stuff that we saw inside the industry. So, yeah, the gaming tokens, you know, some of them have done okay, but they definitely have not performed as well as, you know, I would have liked. So I'm on the same bag because I own quite a few bags of gaming tokens, and they just haven't blasted off as well as they. But we still may see an alt season, like we haven't seen, like, but you could say it about a ton of altcoins And that's the problem, is it's not just gaming that's down. AI is down. All my AI bags are down just as much, 90%, 80% on a lot of these AI alt bags, right? And some of them weren't the best buys, and I should have flipped them sooner. And some of them are like, they actually are still doing really well. I mean, as far as project wise, but the price has not really moved to reflect any of that. So, I don't know. We're at a kind of a crux right now with the price of Bitcoin kind of nearing back to the 100K mark, wanting to get back over there, and a lot of money kind of on the sidelines waiting to jump in, and ETFs being approved. So additional ETFs being approved for things like Solana and for Avalanche and for a couple others. So I don't know. I think that there's still potential upside for altcoins, for an actual true altcoin season to happen. But I don't know, but maybe Bitcoin's just not really done dominating it. And that's what you have to kind of wait for, is for Bitcoin to do its thing and dominate, and then start to lose dominance as money flows into altcoins after people have been taking profits on Bitcoin or rode it all the way up.
So I know obviously you like gaming coins, you like utility coins, you love Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on memes, and what has your experience been with memes?
Like just memes in general, or you mean like meme coins?
Meme coins.
Okay, yeah, meme coins, yeah. I mean, I guess there's not much of a difference these days, right? So as soon as like a popular meme going around like TikTok or something, there's a coin about it almost instantly. I'm not really a big fan. It was a huge craze for like a good solid year, and I'm not really a big fan of them. I mean, I think there's a couple that are okay. They actually do something. They have a good community, or they do really funny actual memes. But when you talk about like what meme coins became and what meme coin trading became, we saw a lot of these scammers be kind of like revealed here over the last couple of months. And then the kind of bottom fall out of meme coins because of that, because these guys are behind like a significant portion of all these like cabal ran coins. And so, the ability to create a coin, for anybody to create a coin and for them to do whatever they want with it or do nothing, is never going away. But I the trend of like, trying to run up some of these, 100K shitters up to 10 mil with a bunch of wash trading, or a bunch of, like a bunch of like, cabal kind of pushing on socials or whatever it may be. I don't know that we're going to keep seeing that. I think that was they took advantage of it. They got us. And I think now people are a little bit more, it's like, all right. Yeah, you got one over on us. All right. So hopefully we'll see a lot more liquidity return to just, solid altcoins that actually have something going on, versus these coins that are nothing, and they're just like named after the latest dog meme or whatever the latest thing Trump did or whatever which is basically what it was. And was just like, oh man, the Lithuania coin is running. Let's go. Like, it's just like, all right.
Okay, so you're not a fan of meme coins. I absolutely love your community. So I'm in your Discord, and it's literally just like a family. You guys hang out together. You will say good morning, good night to each other. You know each other's like family life and all the rest of it, and you guys play games. It's an absolutely lovely community. Tell me about it.
Yeah, the Gaming Intelligence Agency is the kind of like the community name, right? And that's the that's where we're at right now, headquarters. Right, so we're at the GIA headquarters right now, and the GIA has been kind of has been the backbone, right? I wouldn't be here without a great community. So it's all the people who want to come in and get a little bit more, stash time, but really also to just kind of have people to play video games with, right? So we link up together, we play some of the newest games when they launch. A lot of times we get early access, special discounts or things like that. But we do game nights, and we just kind of hang out and game. And yeah, over time, when you have kind of the same people in there hanging out, you get to know each other, and it's you make good, strong bonds. Gaming definitely helps to do that.
And Miss Pennywise, she's in the Discord as well. She's quite a character, isn't
Miss
she?
Crypto Penny, right? Miss Pennywise. That's a scary clown. Yeah, my scary clown secretary is Miss Pennywise. Miss Crypto Penny is like, yeah, she's my assistant, so she's my, sometimes you hear me talking to her on stream or maybe, but anyways, she also is an AI in our Discord. Yeah, she loves tacos and fast cars, and she doesn't take any shit from anybody. So I'd be very wary trying to talk shit to Miss Crypto Penny.
It's so natural for you to stay in this character? Is this how you are in real life as well? Is this like your character?
I mean, when I'm at headquarters here, this is the job. I put on the old standard issue, and we go on missions.
Awesome.
And sometimes you got to do your job every day. Do you look like this every day?
Pretty much, yeah. I've actually literally just come from work. This is why I look like that.
He's like, yeah, business casual.
No, back after.
Business casual.
Awesome. So what's next for me? What is next for you? You've done so much. You've basically been in Bitcoin since almost the very beginning. You've seen the ups, the downs. Your conviction in Bitcoin has never wavered. You're so passionate about it. You've got into the gaming. You've got the YouTube channel. You've got a community. You can't.
Yep, got a new one right there. There's a new community member right there. Yeah. Those are alerts from YouTube. So like, yeah, even like whenever the headquarters just sends on through. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep the accolades. Keep them coming. Yes, I've done all these things. I'm glorious, magnanimous. I know.
So what's next for you? Have you got any plans for 2025? Any additional plans?
Yeah, I'm leaving. I'm gonna skate out. I'm dumping everything on everybody, and I'm gonna leave. Gonna go retire on tropical island. No, I big plans. I mean, more missions. I'm very focused on off the grid, so I love playing. That's my main game. I've been looking. This is what I've always wanted out of gaming and crypto, is to have a game that had enough content, was exciting enough, and well done enough to play it every day. And like literally be able to play it every day without problems. And there's always people there, and I think that's what Off the Grid has really done a great job of. So, just kind of focusing on that, having fun, making videos on some of the latest gaming trends. That's basic, that's the job. As far as other big things coming up, like I don't have any like specific, like, man, there's this big thing. I will say a big loss recently was I was working on my own AI project and I had to shut it down. Which was sad. I really liked the concept behind it, but after starting to build it with my team, we realized, some of these numbers are not going to work out to do like a SaaS type of platform, which was kind of the point behind the project. Because I didn't want to do just like another AI that's just like another, chat bot on X, which is what a lot of the people around that time were doing. And so I tried to do something a little bit different, and it just didn't work out. So I was a little sad about that. But the thing is that I've done all kinds of projects within crypto over the years, and the next one may just be around the corner. Who knows?
That's brilliant. Crypto Stache, it was absolutely lovely hearing your story. I've got a huge amount of respect for you. I love the OGs. I'm really surprised that you've been brave enough and you've kept all of your Bitcoin through all those ups and downs. Amazing story, very inspiring. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah.